This is the recap of the electrifying 2022 American horror thriller film Barbarian, whose production budget is $4.5 million. This movie was written and directed by Zach Cregger, marking his solo debut as a screenwriter and director. A review of this movie claims that you'll find it sometimes suspenseful, funny, gross, and even a little scary. Well, let's find out how accurate the review is. The movie begins when a woman named Tess Marshall, looking for a job interview, arrives at a rental house which she booked by Airbnb in a not-so-nice neighborhood called Brightmoor in Detroit. But there's a surprise waiting for her. The house has been double booked, and Tess finds herself sharing it with a mysterious guy named Keith Toshko. By sorting things between them, they went to sleep that night. Here's where every horror movie starts. Strange things start happening. Tess hears weird noises and finds her bedroom door open, giving her the creeps. But hold on, it turns out Keith is just having a bad dream. False alarm. The next morning she left for an interview. It was all good and she even got hired. But you know the weird part? Her employer claims that no house in Brightmoor is listed on Airbnb, and her sense of security is shattered when she's chased by a creepy stranger while walking back to the house. Scary stuff. But just when you think things can't get worse, guess what happens? She gets stuck in the dark and shady basement inside the house. The door won't open, and she starts to panic. There, she found a hidden door inside that was hiding a disgusting bed, a video camera, and a bucket with a touch of blood. How gross is that? Being terrified, she was relieved to see Keith outside. By seeing her condition, Keith decides to go into the basement himself. What could possibly go wrong, he thought. When Keith doesn't respond, she decides to follow him. The pair find each other but suddenly get attacked by a large, nude, deformed woman who brutally kills Keith. All this in the blink of an eye. Then the story suddenly jumps to 2 weeks later, and we find ourselves following sitcom actor AJ Gilbride. Fired from his show due to molestation charges, he had to sell his possessions to cover legal fees. Seeking refuge in his Detroit property, he ends up at the same Airbnb where Tess and Keith stayed. It's like one by one, everybody ended up in that house. He also took a tour to the basement out of curiosity. Surprisingly, instead of fear, he's excited about the extra acre of land he discovers through a hidden door and tunnel. Unaware of the danger, he merrily measures away with his trusty tape. But then he finds a room with a disturbing video about breastfeeding newborns. Out of nowhere, the deformed woman suddenly appears, chasing him until he falls into a pit. And who's down there? Tess. Yes, she's still alive and well. Tess explains to AJ the ongoing situation. The woman they encountered, known as the Mother, wants them to play the role of her children. But he foolishly ignores Tess's warning not to freak out in front of the woman in the basement. As an old video about motherhood and breastfeeding plays in the background, the ghastly woman returns with a dirty feeding bottle. Tess reluctantly drinks from it, but AJ refuses. It becomes clear that she's trapped in a nightmarish version of motherhood, considering her captives as her babies. The mother then takes him away to force-feed him from her breast. Then the movie pulls back to the 80s when this horror house was owned by a man named Frank. His presence was even more dark than the terrifying basement itself. In this part, it shows that he would go to the supermarket claiming to buy things for an unborn baby. But here's the creepy part. He would follow a woman and sneak into her home, pretending to be a worker. Afterward, he would return home and go down to the very same basement. Meanwhile, Tess seizes the opportunity to escape with the help of Andre. Remember the creepy stranger she met earlier? Then, Tess returns to save AJ when the police fail to help. In the house, AJ discovers old Frank, surrounded by disturbing rape tapes. Frank is alive but guilt-ridden. Tess accidentally crashes into the spooky woman, and AJ shoots Tess out of fear. Seeking refuge, they briefly find solace until the ghost's arrival. AJ previously attempted to sacrifice Tess to save himself, but the mother saved her as she drank her milk and became her baby. And in Andrew's hideout, she violently ends AJ's life by tearing his head apart. Though the mother saves Tess, she must kill her to prevent the spirit from living in society. Let me explain how an innocent woman turns into the mother. Andre further reveals that Frank had abducted women and forcefully reproduced with them. And as though that wasn't enough, he made babies with those babies and the cycle kept going on and on. That extent of inbreeding rape had led to someone as genetically messed up as the mother being born. Perhaps it's their extreme oddness that made Frank keep her around forever. So this was a quick recap of our spooky movie. What ghostly tale shall we unravel next? Leave a comment below and make sure to subscribe to our channel for more bone-chilling story recaps.